Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mahdi Tijani back with you. Today's video is a video, I'm going to be covering a topic that is extremely important to me, and actually it gets me very emotional when I talk about this discussion. And even having prepared my notes for this video that I'm about to deliver, it's making me emotional. Even just writing down the notes was making me emotional. And I'm going to kickstart the video by, firstly and foremostly, the video is going to be a summary of the book The Boy Crisis by Dr. Will Farrell, where he talks about the crisis that young men are facing today who are being raised without their fathers. And this video, or I should say this discussion, is extremely dear to me because you see, I haven't even started and already this video is extremely, or I should say this discussion is extremely important to me because I have seen firsthand the ill effects I've seen firsthand the ill effects it has had on my own children of being raised without a father. And having spoken to many young men now, especially since my infamous rise of infamy on TikTok in particular, many young men have come to me who have been raised in single mother homes and said to me, you know what, Mahdi, I didn't like what you said, and I didn't like how you said it, but I thought about it and you were absolutely right. What do I do? What do I do? How do I fix what's broken inside me? So I'm going to get to that and we're going to talk about that. But before that, I'm going to read off to you a bunch of really disturbing facts, statistical facts, unequivocal statistical facts that I have simply pulled out of the book by Dr. Will Farrell, The Boy Crisis, which I thoroughly recommend you read. It's a 14-hour book on Audible. Good luck not breaking out into tears when you listen to that book. But without further ado, let's just get straight into it. All right, so you can't see the screen that I'm looking at right now, but I'm going to be reading it off to you. And then I will also be playing you something as well. So let's start with a few basic statistics. You can find these stats in the Center for Disease Control. So the first three stats that I'm about to quote off to you are not pulled out of Dr. Will Farrell's book, but you can find them in the Center for Disease Control. And in fact, I will include the link for the TEDx talk of a lady who has dedicated her life's work to helping fathers get custody of their children. And I took these stats from her TEDx talk, which has got millions of views on YouTube now. And she mentions that 60% of all youth, I can't say the word on YouTube because it might trigger the algorithm, of all individuals who take their lives amongst the youth, of all youths who take their own lives, 60% of them come from single mother homes. 71% of all high school dropouts come from single mother homes. And no less than 90% of all homeless and runaway children come from single mother homes. We have to ask ourselves, what the frick is going on? What the mother frick is going on? That these overwhelming statistics are coming from one single demographic, single mother homes. If you consider all the different type of home setups that there are, nuclear home, single father home, children raised in orphanages, and so on and so forth, all of these stats, the overwhelming majority are coming from a single demographic. What the frick is going on? We have to ask ourselves this question. If you're a single mom right now who is intentionally withholding your children from seeing their father on baseless grounds, you think you're having fun now. You think that in this moment here, you're hurting him. And this is your way of punishing him. And you might come up with, oh no, but he's this, that, and the third. You decided to have kids with him. That was your choice. I'm here to tell you this. You might feel that you're getting your moment of satisfaction in the short term, but in the long term, your children are suffering. It's called spiting your nose to hurt your face. Let's carry on. Now I'm going to start getting into the stats from Dr. Will Farrell's book. Living in homes without a father is more correlated with, I've just mentioned it, children taking their lives amongst teenagers than any other factor. Well, we've just covered that. Dad deprivation hurts our daughters as well, not just our sons. The study of inner city Baltimore women who had been teenage mothers, 1/3 of their daughters also became teenage mothers. But not one daughter who had a good relationship with her biological father had a baby before the age of 19. Not one of them who had a sound, functional relationship with her biological father had a baby before the age of 19. Why do you think, gentlemen, that I warn you guys, I warn you, stay away from girls who have daddy issues? Why do you think I tell you that? They are broken. They need fixing. And if you're a girl with daddy issues watching right now, I don't hate you. I want best for you. I want good for you. You need help. You need therapy. You need to fix your dysfunctional relationship with your father because you are a ticking time bomb. You're going to get into a relationship with a man, have children with him, and then take his kids away from him. And then raise kids in a broken home. And then this perpetuates generationally. That is why I warn you, gentlemen, be careful of staying away from girls with daddy issues. Be careful. And don't create a girl who will have daddy issues. Don't marry a girl who, by you marrying her, her father will ostracize her from the family, even if it's halal. Even, because you will create a girl with daddy issues. And then the cycle continues. It is so crucial that both children, but the daughter especially, has a sound, functional relationship with her father. Note that this study that I've just quoted you is not just simple correlation. The study controlled for geography, economic variables, such as social history, economic variables, social history, and mother's age. Children living with dads are less likely to have discipline problems. Why do you think that is? This is despite the fact that dads are less likely than mums to use physical violence. Why do you think that is? Most of you have probably figured it out already. I can look at my son, my 2-year-old son. If he's misbehaving in any way, shape, or form, he's young, he's nearly 3 now. But if he's misbehaving, he's doing something he knows he shouldn't do, I can look at him, I can give him a look, and he will stop in his tracks immediately. Immediately. He won't move a finger more. Just by giving him that look is enough. I don't even need to speak. That's the level of authority I have over him. My wife, however, through no fault of her own, this is not a criticism towards her, she has very little sway over him. Very little. Why? My wife is soft, she's very feminine, and my son as a young boy can sense that. He can sense that there's an opportunity there that I can have my way with my mom. Who can't relate to that? I was the same with my mom. I knew that I could have my way with my mom. But with my dad, hell no. Can't have no way with him. Dads just possess that aura. They possess that authoritarian, these are masculine qualities, right? That sort of authoritarian, dictatorial almost aura that you can't get away with nothing with dad. At least I hope that's the type of dad that you are, because if you're not, you're a pussy. In any case, you understand what I'm saying. That type of aura is more associated with the father than it is with the mother. This is not a criticism towards the mum. It's just the way it is. Women are soft and they tend to be empathetic to the point of allowing kids to get away with things that they know they shouldn't do. With dads, no. It's unemotional. So you can see why this is the case. Children living just with mum are more likely to have discipline problems than those living with dad. And again, we are better together than we are apart, as I've mentioned in previous videos. Children do best when we have mum and dad together. But if you had to choose, children living just with mum get away with more things that they shouldn't do, and as a result, have more discipline problems. In fact, I'll take a quote from Dr. Will Farrell's book. He mentions that mothers have a greater proclivity towards empathizing with the child. You'd think that's a good thing, right? But here's the problem. Mothers who empathize towards a child create children who empathize towards themselves. Let me say it again. Mothers who, or any parent for that matter, it could be a father who does it. Let's just make that, yeah, any parent who empathizes, overly empathizes with the feelings of a child creates a child who over empathizes with themselves. What does that mean? If you take into consideration how your child feels too much, guess what? The child will take into consideration how he or she feels too much. Your empathy becomes a curse. It becomes a curse. And it reminds me of the saying that any virtue taken to its extreme becomes a vice. That's what dads are for. Dads are there, you see, we balance each other out. We're like a seesaw. Maybe I'm a bit too much on the strict side with my kids. And maybe my wife is a bit too much on the soft side with our kids. But guess what? We balance each other out. Hence why we are better together than we are apart. I once had a lady on Instagram message me. I won't name her, but she knows who she is if she's watching this right now. And she said to me, you know, I'm worried that my husband is too strict with the kids, and I feel like I'm a bit too soft. And I said to her, don't worry, that's perfect. I said, if he's too strict, you balance him out. And if you're too soft, he balances you out. And you have a nice equilibrium. I know I can be a little bit too strict on my kids sometimes. And my wife can definitely be a bit too soft. Guess what? We balance each other out. We're better together than we are apart. But if you had to pick one, you would pick the one who's more strict than the one who empathizes more. The one who's more strict is more important. You know why? Because it creates boundaries that cannot be crossed. You don't create a child by overly empathizing with the child. You create a child who overly empathizes with themselves. Another word for this would be narcissist. That is the very definition of a narcissist. 5 to 11-year-old children living with mums are 259% more likely to go to the hospital. And I will play you a clip right now from the book to build out this point for you.
This is despite the fact that dads are less likely than moms to use physical discipline. 2. 5 to 11-year-old children with moms are 259% more likely to go to the hospital. How does this mom-dad gap between setting boundaries and enforcing boundaries work in everyday life? Let's go back to bedtime in theory versus bedtime in practice. When Harry was asked by a therapist why he thought he got to bed later with his mom than his dad, he explained, "With mom, I can get away with it." How? With mom, I say, like I need water or I have a tummy ache. So you manipulate her? Harry grinned. Don't those excuses get a bit old? Harry's grin expanded as if he was delighted in his cleverness. I have a whole bunch of excuses, like I have to get my homework done, or just one more story, or I tell her, I love it when you read to me Where the Wild Things Are. Harry paused and then boasted, I have a real sense of what will work. Sooner or later, mom gives in. Do you use those boys with your dad? No, they don't work with him. How's that? He doesn't let me have any dessert or TV or do anything fun until I do my homework and chores. So he's more serious? Well, sort of. He'll announce that bedtime is 9:30, but I know that whatever time is left after I do my homework and get all ready for bed is wrestle time, where I get a story or pretty much anything I want, except no sweets. So I rush to get everything done. Doesn't that just tempt you to do a rush job on your homework? Yeah, actually it used to. But when I got a C once from Miss Ahern, she's real strict, then Dad started checking it while I get ready for bed. If it's okay, we get to wrestle or read. If it's not, I gotta go back and do homework. But when it's 9:30, he gives me a big hug and kiss, and that's it. Harry, like most kids, was like a prisoner who was on a vigilant watch, waiting for the guard to drop his guard, watching for a little crack in the prison door through which he could gain his freedom. Once Harry saw how he could manipulate his mom for a better deal, it was just a matter of who had more energy. So Harry always won. And therefore, Harry always lost, with a compromised immune system. A weaker immune system also leads to a vicious cycle. Harry was absent from school, with a couple of trips to the emergency room, so his mom and sometimes dad became even more protective and guilty, allowing for even more manipulation, and thus the cycle continued. But it all started with the more porous boundary. What moms are more likely to bring to the family table is a deep-seated understanding that children need empathy, as does everyone. Dad's contributions are more counterintuitive. First, that empathy is a virtue which, when it only goes from parent to child and is not required of the child, becomes a vice. And second, that empathy for a child's desires does not imply being controlled by the child's desires. That said, some dads give empathy too short shrift. When they...
Right. That summarizes it perfectly. And again, he was about to go on to some dads give empathy too short shrift. And that's why I say we're better together than we are apart. I can be a little too unempathetic with my kids sometimes. And my wife can be a little too over empathetic. Guess what? We balance each other out. But you can see, going back to the original point, 5 to 11-year-old children living with mums just with mums, that is, are 259% more likely to go to the hospital. They have a compromised immune system. They're more likely to stay up later. They're more likely to eat junk food. They're more likely to do whatever they want because they can. Because it's easier to get their wicked way with mum than it is with dad. And the child wins. And as a result, the child loses with a compromised immune system. Glenys Walker's research found, and again citing from the book, that mums are almost 5 times as likely to badmouth dads as dads are to badmouth mums. And then he continues, the author, Dr. Will Farrell, that this undoubtedly contributes to 3 other findings of divorce. Number 1, children living with their dad felt positively about their mum. Children living with their mum were more likely to think negatively of their father. Bitter single mums, unable to keep their tongue under control and to not involve the children, to not involve them in your drama. And to the single mums, if you're a single mum watching right now, don't badmouth your child's father in front of the child. You want to know why? Because your child is half of that man that you are criticizing, that you are bad-mouthing. Do you know what that means? You create insecurity issues inside your child because the child thinks, if my father's an idiot, if my father's a fool, if my father's a waste man, well, I'm half of my father. That must mean I'm a fool, I'm a waste man, I'm an idiot, at least 50%. Can't you see what you're doing? Don't speak like this in front of them. If you're upset with their dad for whatever reason, speak whatever you want to speak about in private, with your friends, on the phone, wherever, out of earshot of the kids. Because when you criticize him, you criticize them. And the pendulum swings both ways. Dads, don't criticize mum in front of the children. When you criticize her, you criticize them. You know why? Because they are 50% her. Zip it. The second finding. When children live only with their mums, the parents are 9 times as likely to have conflict as when children live with their dads. Fascinating. And thirdly, children living with their mums are less than half as likely to have contact with their father because there are so many women who like to use their children as pawns to harm their father. I can relate to this. And without going into too much detail, my ex-wife has used my children as weapons against me in the past. She has used them as weapons against. She has weaponized the children against me. And this is not new. I'm not saying anything new. If you're a dad right now going through a custody battle, you already know what the time is. Even if you have a clean record, I've got a criminal record. Even if you have a clean record, you know that there are so many women who weaponize their children against their father. It's the only source of leverage she has because There's nothing else between them anymore. They've gone their separate ways. But she knows she can push his buttons. She can pull on his buttons if she weaponizes the children against him. And you know what? I'll quote something that Andrew Tate said. And I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, but it certainly takes away the leverage away from her. And I'm not going to give I'll decide how I feel about this after I quote it. But he said, if you find yourself in a situation like that, he said, if I found myself in a situation like that, you know what I'd say to her? To hell with the kids. Take the kid, I'll make a new one. No problem. And that might sound really, really cold. And it is really cold. It is extremely cold. But you have to understand where he's coming from. When you react to someone, when they throw out the bait and they press your buttons and you react to them, do you know what you do? You reward their behavior. You give them the kick they were looking for all along, which is, I'm upset, I'm hurt. What does that mean? That they now know that they have a leverage point to pull on. They've got something to yank on. Every time you annoy them or they're upset with you, they know, if I do this, if I press that button, I'm going to hurt him again. So I'm not saying, obviously, that it's extremely cold, it's extremely harsh, whatever. And I'm not going to give my opinion on that. But nevertheless, I understand what he's saying. When you react to a person, you incentivize and reward them for their bad behavior. Nevertheless, the point is this. Single moms, stop weaponizing your kids against their fathers. You chose to procreate with him. You chose that. Stop playing the victim. The vast majority of fathers are not these brutal, violent, whatever you want to make out. If you're having personal issues with him, that's between you and him. Because you withholding the children from him not only hurts him, it hurts the very children you claim to love. You claim to love them, but that's just a claim. You love yourself more. You love yourself more if you are weaponizing those kids against him by intentionally depriving them from seeing him. You love yourself more. That is a narcissist. A 2016 study of social workers documented an obstacle that dads encounter worldwide. And listen to this. Quote, social workers tend to consider children's wishes so long as their preference is for maternal custody. When children express a paternal preference, their wish carries no weight. Their wish carries no weight. And I'll read that again. Social workers will consider the wishes of a child so long as the preference is for maternal custody. So long as the kids say, we want to live with mum. The moment the children express a paternal preference and say, we want to live with dad, their wishes carry no weight. Why do you think so many men in the West have gone MGTOW, men going their own way? Men no longer getting married and wanting to have children, especially amongst the non-Muslims. Why do you think that is? Because they're seeing these overwhelming statistics and thinking, you know what? F this shit. What am I going to sign myself up for this heartache for? For what? The system is rigged from the start. And I can empathize with them. I don't agree with them, but I can empathize with them because as someone who myself, having been through this system of not being able to see my kids for an extended period of time, on and off, on and off, on and off repeatedly. I never forget one time my 7-year-old, 8-year-old now, he's 8 years old, Kareem. And I hadn't spoken to him in God knows how long. I was trying to get hold of them for weeks on end. And this process it's happened so many times now. And I remember mum finally decided, his mum that is, that, they can call me now. And I remember speaking to, so I answered my phone and I was actually sitting here in the living room, right over there. And I picked up the phone. And I heard his voice. And, he's a kid. He doesn't really know what's going on. He's like, Assalamu alaikum, Baba, how are you? And I went to speak, and I couldn't speak. I choked. I completely choked. Because tears filled my eyes, and he must have been thinking, what the hell's going on? What's going on with my dad? He's a kid at the end of the day. But that's the game that we're in right now. And the game is rigged. And you can understand why so many men are deciding against the institution of marriage, are deciding against having children. It's one of the reasons why the West is dwindling in population size. It's dwindling. I get it. I get it. And it's one of the reasons why I am so big on vetting, gentlemen, so big on vetting, on looking for red flags, on vetting. Because I am telling you, as a man who has been married to a wide array of different women, I can tell you there is a night and day difference between the heavens and the earth distance in difference between a woman who has red flags and a woman who doesn't. Night and day, heaven and earth. Raha nafsiyya, peace of the soul and torment of the soul. That's the difference. There is no comparison. And that's why I dedicate this YouTube channel. I dedicate this YouTube channel to helping young men chase excellence, firstly and foremostly. Secondly, vetting, finding yourself a good woman. And then thirdly, making our marriages work so that our children are not exposed to these nightmarish statistics by being raised in single mother homes or single father homes or single parent homes in general. But specifically single mother, I have to make a clear distinction there. The stats are overwhelmingly worse for children raised in single mother homes. I'm not attacking women. I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you, I'm a reporter. I'm reporting to you what I have found. And I thoroughly recommend, in fact, I'll include it in the description, to the Amazon link to Dr. Will Farrell's book. I bought it on Audible and listened to it on Audible. If you don't have time to sit down and hold a book, listen to it instead of reading it. If you don't have time to read it, I'll put the link in the description. And so, to wrap this up, I have a message for the young men who are following this channel. You follow me, you watch my content, and you are raised in a single mother home. I have a message for you. And that message is this: don't lose hope. I know these statistics are damning, and you know that you feel that there's something lacking inside of you. There's some type of deficiency. You know it. Now I'm telling you, as a man, you need to own that shit. That's on you now. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. And you know what that light is? You can reform whatever inadequacy or deficiency you have in you. And if you've been raised with a single mom, you probably emote like a woman. You probably express your emotions like a woman, and you get upset like a woman, because that's all you've ever known. That's all you were ever exposed to. That's all you ever had to model. It's not your fault. But now it's your responsibility to fix it. If man like Kevin Samuels, who is the most brutal man I've ever seen on YouTube, when it comes to, you've seen how he did. You don't need me to tell you how he is. The archetypal sort of alpha male, right? He was raised by a single mom and two aunties. In fact, he says in one of his videos, it's a miracle I didn't come out gay. Those were his words. It's a miracle I didn't come out gay. Raised by a single mom and two aunts. If he can come out the way he did, you can definitely pattern up. But you've got to go through the work. You've got to do the work. What is the work? It's simple. Iron sharpens iron. You need to do two things. You need to spend more time with masculine men. Masculine energy. That's how you sharpen the knife. That's how you sharpen the iron. That's the first thing. The second thing is you need to do more masculine activities. Join a fight club. Get punched in the face. Do man stuff. Manly stuff. Go quad biking or shooting guns on a range if you can. Depending on which part of the world you live in. Just do manly stuff with manly men. That's how you sharpen the axe. That's how you will refine yourself as a man. There's hope for you, my friend. To the young man watching who feels hopeless, there's hope for you. And then thirdly, if your father is still alive and he's still around, go and rekindle your relationship with him. Listen to his side of the story, because I am absolutely certain he has a different story to the one that your mother has fed you. Boys who hurt us. In 2015, Anthony Sims' participation in a gun battle led him to killing a young mother in Oakland, California. His final Facebook post before his arrest was, "I wish I had a father."